See, it's fun when the lights are low, big bright screen. You crank up the sound, and you're there. You're there to be entertained. And you have a $270 million production to do that. It's not there to reprogram your mind, send laser beams into your brain to rewrite your consciousness. It's there to entertain. Now, are we in a time where even the professionals that have all the data, all the information, all the user habits, and that level of information goes deep, my film buffers. But those people are confused with what direction is the audience going in mass, so we can make a $300 million movie, employ a ton of people, but make something that can be popular around the world, that can even inspire people around the world. That's where you have to be if you want to be a good audience member. And if you're not in that frame, I think it's hard to trust your review, your commentary, your opinion. And that's really where we are. We've drawn this line in the sand a long time ago at the Film Buff Podcast. So much so, as the audience grows, and all of this is intertwined with the Film Buff's website, AKAPAD.com. A lot of those review posts now, they're searchable. They populate. They populate on search. So we're growing. This voice that we have here, the mission statement, it's there. But we have issues with this movie, and I can't say any of them are within the movie itself. It really is this fabricated reality that hawks this film. Because I see a lot of good. I see one of our emerging film directors, Mark Webb, doing good work. I see a rising star. And I see a lot of solutions to make a 2-hour bigger movie from a 90-minute, less than 90-minute animated feature that launched a company big enough to retire creatives. If there's one reason to protect Disney, it's that's one of it. It's one of the few places creative people can retire. So let's go, AKA Padders. But we're going to get into this movie. We're going to do the intro. I'm going to give you my quick thoughts. But then there's a bigger issue to attack, and that's because I've seen this movie. All right, let's go.
Quiet on the set.
Camera speed.
Sound production. Take one.
Action.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like long intro. My apologies. There's so many threads. I don't know. Like, so it really is like the sweater. Like, the thread on your sweater. You pull. I think that was a Goofy skit. You pull the thread of the sweater, and the entire sweater unravels. That's a little bit where we are. I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was great. I thought Zegler was well cast because this is a musical. And she's, at the time, right? At the time of production and the casting, right? Hot talent. She got a lot of attention from that Steven Spielberg remake. I always forget the title of that. I always want to say North by Northwest, but she wasn't in North by Northwest. I don't think North by Northwest has ever been remade. She's in West Side Story, and holy crap, what a brain fart. I had to talk there to get my brain to catch up to to get my mouth to catch up to my brain. yeah, she's in the Oscar run movie, right? And I think just when it comes to making a movie, and you're making this level flick, you might say, well, she's not exactly a pop talent like Ariana Grande is for Wicked, right? Like she's a homegrown, Hollywood discovered her. She had an Oscar run talent. At one time, this is the stuff of legend, right? Like you want that, you still want stories of the Hollywood dream. You still want the kid that worked at the VHS store to make a hit movie, make a movie his way. Yeah, like you still want that independence. So that's what, in my view, that's what happens for her. Now I get, yeah, the social media stuff. I get statements. I get her pushing back. Like I don't think anything she says like moves the needle politically. Technically, guys, the biggest star in the universe, Taylor Swift, couldn't move the political needle for this past election, right? Couldn't do it. So, what sway does Rachel Zegler have? And who really cares? Because we're here to watch movies. And I just think from a producer position, you get a talent that can sing. So you start to mold a movie around the talent. I get the idea that she's not Snow White, but then, okay, but this is a version of Snow White. They spend the first scene of the movie to explain the name. And whatever, yeah. I mean, it's not as bad as Namor from Wakanda Forever. That's a travesty. This is explained. And you know what? This is no different than a current YouTube video. I just did a YouTube video where I talk about James Gunn and the Superman trunks. Because James Gunn's part of his PR tour for Superman, he's trying to explain the trunks. He's making a part of like a narrative. Like, let's explain it. Like, let's just get a good explanation. And people in the comics have tried it. No one's ever done it well. It's either he's wearing trunks or he's not, and whatever, right? So it's okay if we get an explanation of the name Snow White. Sometimes it's easy. If your name's Pinocchio, well, there you go. We don't need to explain that. Sometimes, as a storyteller, just to bring a new generation of the audience up to speed, it's fun. It's fun to come up with explanations. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But they spend the time to explain the name, which is she was an infant. She was a baby born in a crazy snowstorm, so they called her Snow White. Okay, moving on. So, during this movie, though, I just fell into it. I think the like what they did with the Hi Ho song, I think her performance is good. I don't think there's one bad performance in this flick. I think the songs are vast and they do move the story. I mean, this film acts as a musical. It really does. The opening Disney fanfare brings us to Disney 100, the 100th anniversary, right? I don't know if it was 2024 or 2025, but to have this movie emerge as the next live action, yeah, right? It's appropriate that it's on the 100th anniversary. That's a big point. But it really makes you respect the company that Disney is. And I think a lot of people are so caught up in Disney, they call it the MCU, where they put female characters in male lead roles for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or they race swap because of DEI and inclusion, like all these nice, fun, very nondescript buzzwords. Like even woke, like woke is very much losing volume now. It's just like woke's almost becoming a joke. Just to use it, like you have to get better ways to describe what's happening rather than just calling random things woke all the time. And to be truthful, some of it is there, some of it is dead on, and a lot of these doomsayers, they've been right on how some of these productions have went and how the audience has received it, right? Meaning the audiences didn't go for it. But a lot of these doomsayers, they they try and put their money where their mouth is. I give them a lot of credit for that, but they fail. They fail miserably. Like they try and make their own comic books and short films and novels and movies, and it's tough. It's tough. It doesn't go well all the time. Few nailed it. So we get this story that breaks out of this film, like very early, where we see a bunch of DEI, they call them the DEI dwarfs. And I guess maybe the original title for this movie potentially could have been like Snow White and her like 7 magical friends. But we see the plot element of that like 40 minutes in. So maybe the dwarves, who I think are awesome in this, very well designed. Now, your introduction to them when you really first see them on screen, not quite there, but I want to say some of the future render, like it gets better, but they're also in style of the Disney live action style, right? So it plays out. I'm not 100% if the dwarfs were in some of these original versions of this movie or had the impact that they have in this one, because this follows the thread of the original animated film. Like she sleeps on their bed, they discover Snow White, she becomes like a motherly figure for them when she like they become emotionally attached to her. Like all this stuff is there. Dopey kind of having a crush on her, it's very much there. So we got this leak of the like one of them's like a tall African American. There's like a midget or a small person. There's like an Asian, right? Like it's like this DEI lineup, and they're like, this is what they're doing to the 7 dwarfs, and that picture went so viral and it hit so hard, and it played into so much of this other stuff that Disney potentially pivoted and said, look, like we need to lower the impact of these characters. And in my view, that's essentially what Disney said. They said, we just got to bring in the dwarves at this point. So they did, and it leaked out, and no one was happy. And it's really weird. So I'm watching this movie, and I'm thinking, like, wow, there's probably going to be like a big like internet lost footage, like the future interneters. They're going to want to know what happened with these 7 mystical dwarves, like the DEI dwarves, and and that's going to be a great backstory, and maybe there'll be like 2 other versions of this movie to leak out, and the story of Snow White 2025 is far from over, because people are going to want to know what happened to that footage and what that story was. And they'll, and people love doing that with movies. It's fascinating, The Revenge of the Jedi versus Return of the Jedi, still discussed, still videos dropping on that. It's just like the what could have been, right? But I'm thinking like that was scrapped. And she runs into her love interest, which could have went different at one time. I think she wasn't supposed to fall in love with this guy when she meets him, but he's connected to these 7 mystical DEI dwarfs, right? And I got angry because I was convinced that they're not in the movie. They're a part of the movie, but we also have the Seven Dwarfs. So the viral picture that potentially added more time and all these other things like to the movie, more cost, was a plot thread that they just diminished a little bit. But they're fully in the movie with the dwarfs. So it's like, what what are we doing here, internet? The internet, even for a commentary level, poorly reported the context of this movie compared to what the narrative was. But as a film goer, yeah, like the dwarves kind of like, just as the story plays out, right? Like the dwarves have almost like a dynamic opposite to play off of, and it's not just the dwarves with limited interactions, right? They're not just talking to the prince, or they're just not talking to the witch, or they're just not talking to Snow White. There's like this bigger environment, and there's a bigger world that Snow White's attached to. Her father, rebellion leader, the Wicked Witch, is like, now he goes to fight the Wicked Witch's army, and he disappears, and that's how Snow White's on her own until the mirror sees her and labels her the fairest one of them all. And I get that comparison, right? Like, should Gal Gadot have been in this movie? But you have a talent of Rachel Zegler to perform, and she performs very well. And Gal Gadot looks amazing when she's the beautiful version of the Queen. So so like, just again, like, you gotta put on your producer hat sometimes, and you just have to say, we have to go with this. This is our Snow White, sign the check. This is our Wicked Witch, sign the check. And then we have these like red carpet moments, right? I have spoken about this at length, where we learn that some of the concepts and some of the positioning of the original tale. But the story for this is no different than the Snow White and the Huntsman. Like, no one had a problem with those movies, right? But at the time, though, everyone knew that wasn't the Disney Snow White. So the Disney Snow White's only supposed to be a certain way. A lot of these live action remakes, they're almost reforming the animation to a different audience. But then here's a wild thing, AK Powders. I just saw a run of commentary for people criticizing How to Train Your Dragon because they call it a shot-for-shot remake. So they disparage that. So again, like, this is the fault of criticism. The critics don't know which way to go. They all know down from up. And they're not really watching these movies. I really don't. I don't believe it. It's hard for me to believe that anyone watches this movie and they're not. I get it. Like, maybe the tone and the music isn't your bag, baby. But you can't walk away from the quality of it, from the production, from the spectacle, and for it being a form of entertainment. And you can say what you want about Disney going woke and doing this, but I think Disney is scrambling to find that audience and to know what that audience wants. I just think they're just not nailing it. But then again, who's nailing the audience? No one. I mean, we just saw Tom Cruise with the greatest action movie of all time, and that might be that movie's probably going to be at a loss, which is insane. Because at one time, the greatest action movie of all time would have been the biggest movie of all time. So we're dealing with a shifting audience, with a shifting marketplace, and we have to be good about it. So guys, just want to say, and I know we're a little long-winded today, but I there's little to fight against on this movie. I just don't see it, and it would be nice if I did. Then I could crap on it with everyone, but that's not what we do here. We watch the films with a critical eye. All right, AKA Padders. I love you guys. Rock and roll. Thanks for hanging out.
Okay, that's a wrap.